So I had us pause up till this point, but the church bells outside my house say it's 6 o'clock. So I'm gonna start us off. First of all, thanks to everyone who has joined. I know a cold, wet Monday evening is not the ideal time to be doing anything other than snuggled up on the sofa under a snuggie. But thank you for taking the time to come out, come into the virtual space and get the information that we're sharing with you tonight about the National Disaster Resilience Substantial Amendment number 1. Um, so we will have tonight going through the slides myself, Natalie Manning. I am the outreach specialist for the Gentilly Resilience District, which is funded by the National Disaster Resilience Grant, as well as Corcherie Allen, who is with the Office of Community Development, and Mary Kincaid, who is with the Project Delivery Unit for Sustainable Infrastructure. Thanks to all of our internal and external partners that have joined the call. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. And I will be just taking a few seconds every once in a while to let people into the waiting room, so please be patient. All right. All right, so again, welcome to the NDR Substantial Amendment number 1 public hearing. We thank you so much for joining us virtually. So we just wanted to go over a few house rules before we get started. Please remember to keep your computer and or phone muted while the presentation is live. We do not, we'll hold all of the questions and comments till the end, till Corcherie and Mary have been able to go through the entire presentation. Please do not unmute your audio unless you are speaking, so that everybody will have a chance to be able to hear the presentation, and then the question and answer period following. Please be respectful of those speaking at that time as well. So as I mentioned, there's going to be an opportunity for individuals to ask questions. And there are 3 ways that we're offering to do that this evening. One is chat. So there's a chat function on your screen, and you would be able to type in any questions that you have there. Additionally, we also offer the opportunity for any individuals that are calling in and not joining by computer to ask their questions verbally. So there'll be an opportunity for that as well. And then finally, we have a text line. That number is 504-565-2529. And you can also submit your questions that way as well. And again, holding all of those questions till the end, till we are able to go through the entire presentation. And just as a side note, this presentation will be recorded. This meeting will be recorded, and it will be available on the website for public consumption. Wait, there's a few more people in the waiting room. All right, so we'll just going to go through the agenda. So right now, we'll be talking about the roles and responsibilities of the individuals that are administering the grant. Then next, we'll be talking about the actual grant, doing a funding overview of that. Then we'll talk about an overview of the substantial amendment, number 1. And then after that, we'll talk about the programs and projects that are affected by or impacted by the substantial amendment and those proposed changes. And then finally, we'll talk through next steps and how you can submit your feedback based on the information that we talk about on this call. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Corcherie.
Thanks, Natalie. I am Corcherie Allen. I am the Disaster Programs Manager for the City of New Orleans Office of Community Development. I will be the person that you will contact if you have any comments. And we also do have a running comment section on our website. So if you ever have any questions or any concerns about the grant, the program itself, please go to our City of New Orleans website, click on the Office of Community Development, scroll down, go over to the right, click on NDR. I do apologize, it's a lot. And then go down to our public comment section. You will have my information at the end So you can actually email me if that's a tad bit too much to go through. All right, so let's get started. I'm with the Office of Community Development. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't forget to-
Oh, no problem. I just wanted to give them that information, but I do want to go over some of this for them. I'm with the Office of Community Development. If you have not heard of us, we work to stabilize and revitalize neighborhoods by using our resources. And a lot of our resources over on our side is grant related. So this is a housing and urban development grant that we'll be speaking to you about, and it is a federal dollar. So any federal dollars that we put out, we do ask that you give us some feedback as it is required. I will be the team lead. And on the project delivery side, the team lead is Joseph Threat. I'm sure he's joining the call shortly, but we do have Mary Kincaid, who will give us the run through of the projects and programs.
I'm online, Coach Rick.
Hi, Joe. There he is. All right, and this is the grant overview. Mary, I can go over the overview. That's not a problem. I do know you want to give specifics about certain things, but so I'll just read through this and let you ad lib. This is the Gentilly Resilience District that we're showing you, and these are the proposed projects of the Gentilly Resilience District. The City of New Orleans did receive $141 million in community development block grant disaster recovery funds from HUD for the National Disaster Resilience Competition. This funding is being used to implement the city's first ever resilience district in Gentilly. And boy, is this a special project. This one is near and dear to all of our hearts. And I will ask Mary to give some background on that.
Thanks, Coach Ray. For this project, what was unusual about it was that it was a competitive grant. We're one of very few cities in the United States that received this grant. Also, just the scale of it. You know, this is a project where we have large multi-acre projects that are large stormwater projects. And we also have interventions that are on private property, on residents' property. And you'll see more details about those as we go along. It's also unusual in that it is a multi-benefit project. The city had been successful getting FEMA hazard mitigation money after past disasters, but those only looked at benefits of flooding reduction. This program allows us to look at not just flooding reduction and subsidence, but also adding green space, adding biodiversity, providing environmental education for our youth, and addressing urban health and the public health factors that go along with it. Next slide.
Okay, this is the substantial amendment overview. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development requires the City of New Orleans to submit a draft of the substantial amendment to the National Disaster Resilience Competition Action Plan for the use of federal funds. As I stated, these funds have been given to us by HUD, and it is to benefit the public. So at any time that we decide to do any changes to that action plan, we do have to come to the public and ask you guys to give us some input and some feedback on it. What we will be doing is reallocating $13.8 million of community development block grant funding between projects and programs. We will also be updating key personnel as people have left and other people have joined the team. We'll be refining activity descriptions, increasing project areas, trying to maximize the community member benefits, as well as ensuring placemaking is benefiting the residents of the GRD. What I would like to say is, these are funds that we're trying to make sure that we're using more effectively and efficiently on this project. We have identified funds that we will not use on the city side. So we're going to put them into the actual project, and we're going to use them on construction and in other ways to make sure that we're getting the maximum benefit for our dollars. If we don't spend the funds will go back to HUD. So instead of us holding on to the funds and trying to figure out a way that we can spend the dollars, we're actually putting that into the project and getting that out onto the street so we can spend those funds. All right, this is the projects and programs. Urban water.
We just wanted to, if you could go back for one, Natalie, we just wanted to give y'all an overview of how do these projects relate to each other and what makes this a Gentilly Resilience District as opposed to just more infrastructure projects. So you can see how these projects are related to each other through the corridors and through the stormwater networks of Gentilly. So whether you're all the way from Pontilly, which is linking together the historic neighborhoods of Pontchartrain Park and Gentilly Woods and adding recreational features, to St. Bernard Neighborhood Campus, which is going to include a kayak launch so that there's much more of a personal relationship with water. These projects are intended to not just store stormwater, but also educate people on climate risk and how we are truly in New Orleans living with water. Next slide. Blue and Green Corridors is one of the larger projects that constitute the program. This is a rendering. There are also other renderings on the site. If you go to NOLA.gov/resilience, we've got some great renderings of what's going to happen in Elysian Fields and Robert E. Lee. So turning the neutral ground into a blue corridor that will have circulating stormwater storage and turning Robert E. Lee into a green corridor. Also, you'll notice the enhancements on the streets to make active transportation, biking and walking easier for people to get to school and people to get to work. Next slide.
I think she put the impacts of the substantial amendment. Did you go over those?
Yeah,
Right.
I was going to interject and say, I didn't know, Coach Cherie, if you wanted to jump in there and just talk through what the substantial amendment impact was.
Sure. For the blue-green corridors, the budget reallocation is roughly 2.4 million from blue-green corridors to community adaptation program, which is our CAP, which directly benefits the residents of Gentilly, where we provide them with stormwater management on their properties. Dillard Wetlands will receive 332,000. St. Anthony Green Streets will receive 1 million. And Mirabel Water Gardens will receive 606,000. Again, these are dollars that the city of New Orleans could not spend on its activity delivery side. So we decided to use them on the actual construction and put the dollars into the street. If we can't use it, we use it. So we lose it. So we have to put it back into the projects.
Dillard Wetlands is a project that's going to take place in probably a little known green parcel that's on the London Canal. This is about 27 acres. It's formerly belonged to Dillard University and became part of the city's property. So we're going to be looking at creating an urban forest space, which is something that we have very scarcely. So we're taking this site, which is currently not in public use. We're going to have an outdoor classroom, walking trails, and we're also going to be doing some plantings and improving the biodiversity of the site. That encourages overall health of the project. Some of these trees that we have on our projects are part of what slows down hurricanes and storms when they move over the city. So in making improvements to biodiversity of the site and ensuring that we have our large live oaks and other trees for future generations is an important part of storm management. As Courtney mentioned on the last slide, this project is going to be the beneficiary of the efficiencies that we have identified on Blue and Green Corridor. And so Dillard Wetlands will be receiving a net infusion of 332,000 to the construction. Thanks, Natalie. On the Milne campus, what we're doing here is we're going to be kind of expanding the project footprint. In the original grant application, the work was confined to what's known as the Milne campus. So if you use the gym there on Franklin Avenue, if you've been in those rec buildings, that's the Milne campus. Now, what we're doing, if you take a look at the action plan, is we're moving this out from just Milne campus to looking at other city-owned parks, vacant lots that are under the management of Nora, and other green spaces in the neighborhood. So we're kind of pushing that footprint out and making sure that we bring benefits into as much of the neighborhood as possible. This is a budget reallocation. It's a bit of a housekeeping issue that as we report these projects to HUD through the disaster recovery grant management system, By changing the name and expanding the project area, this is considered a substantial amendment, even though most of the actions and the people that will be benefited by this project are substantially the same. Cherie, would you like to add to that?
Yes, I just would like to reiterate what you stated. We're simply moving forward with the project in a larger footprint. So it's going to benefit more people. And again, with any of the funds that we have to use the funds. So it's best for us that we just use the funds in a larger scale, and hopefully you guys will see the impact in your neighborhood of how this will benefit you.
Mirabeau Water Garden is an area that some of you may already be familiar with. It was donated to the city of New Orleans by the Congregation of the Sisters of St. Joseph after Hurricane Katrina, and it represents an enormous possibility for us. For NDR, what we're doing out at the site is we're going to be adding educational buildings and adding programming so that when you visit the site, there's an action that you can take away and do on your property and in your life to reduce stormwater runoff and to be aware of climate risk. This project is a beneficiary of $600,000 that were identified from the Blue and Green Corridors project. St. Anthony Green Streets is a neighborhood scale project. So we're taking 3 parks in the St. Anthony neighborhood, some of which were previously underutilized. And we're adding features, we're connecting those parks in a meaningful way through green improvements in the streets. And we're also going to be doing resurfacing of the streets, roadway work in the streets, leveraging some FEMA funds. As you can see from the rendering here, there's stormwater storage, there's planting of trees such as cypress that are excellent at managing stormwater. And then we're also adding a play space. But notice that the play space is one that is bridging over a stormwater storage place. So when we talk about these projects, we like to talk about them as not an either or, but an and. This is a project that is recreation, public health, and stormwater storage. This project is the beneficiary of $1 million that was identified through efficiencies on the Blue and Green Corridors project. St. Bernard Neighborhood Campus, this project is receiving some additional funding to provide recreational amenities on what was known as the Willie Hall Playground and bring back something to the community that they sorely missed. So in the rendering from one of our previous public meetings, you can see there, we're looking at a fully kitted out football field with a running track. We do have a 2-story concession and community kitchen, community meeting place building. And then we also have a softball field. Now, what's underneath all of this is a massive underground detention project. So we're putting in modular storage, and then we're going to be replacing the grass and a high performance field over the top of that. So again, we're doing stormwater storage and added benefits. And this one is receiving $4.1 million from various projects. The community adaptation program is one that, as you can see, is award-winning. It's a project that does interventions on the residential scale. So we're extremely excited to further share with the community what some of these residents have done. In the photo, you can see stormwater planters. You can see where an impervious walkway has been replaced with a pervious walkway, just meaning that it allows water to infiltrate and be stored. And then we have other features such as adding native plants. Native plants are extremely useful in the landscape in the way that they manage stormwater and in the way that they are much less likely to require herbicides and pesticides in order to thrive. You may not know that having herbicide and pesticide use in your lawn decreases the organic activity in your soil and actually causes your lawn to shed more stormwater rather than storing it. So this is kind of our tip of the spear project, where we work with individual homeowners for these interventions with the idea that they can then become neighborhood champions that share this. We identified 263,000 from blue and green corridors efficiencies that we're shifting to community adaptation program to pay for some administrative expenses. This preserves the majority of the grant funding that had previously been identified for CAP to remain strictly focused on improvements for residents. Energy redundancy and monitoring. This is another project where we've identified some money to be able to manage administrative expenses and preserve the totality of the 1.2 million for the project itself. What's most exciting about this project, so this project adds various sensors, canal levels, monitoring equipment, but what I really like about this project is the end product is going to include a web-based dashboard so that you as a resident can go to the Sewage and Water Board website and you'll be able to see how high is the water in the canal in your neighborhood. What is the pump station that takes care of my neighborhood? Is the pump on? How long has the pump been operating? So the various sensors that we're going to install and be able to monitor, residents will be able to monitor as well. And I'm really excited about that. Microgrids is a project where we're going to be looking at doing what's called unconsolidated power generation. So if you think about after the last storm, when you may have been tempted to go out and buy a whole house generator or even a small generator, so you were looking at being at least temporarily disconnected from the grid and running power off of the grid. Microgrids is the same type of concept, but on a neighborhood level. So we're looking at putting in small package level solar grids that neighbors can connect to that will then provide them the ability after a storm, when the main grid is down, to still go and get groceries, to still go and get your prescriptions, and basically carry out those things that are very important to your quality of life. This project is the recipient of $116,000 that were identified through efficiencies. This is one of our ones that is really more of, what we've talked about right now has just been identifying money to move around so that we can use more of that in things that directly benefit residents. Or we talked about how Milneburg was not really a location change, it's more of a widening. Now, the exception to that is this. So originally in the grant, we looked at putting public art along Orleans Canal and London Avenue Canal. Well, obviously London Avenue Canal isn't really in the Gentilly neighborhood. So what we've proposed to do to HUD in this action plan amendment is widen the scope. So instead of looking at Orleans Canal and London Canal, we're making this London Canal and Gentilly canals and lagoons. So there's other water features that we've been showing you, such as the stormwater storage and the nice little bioswale in St. Anthony. Those are going to be things that we can consider for placing public art. And we're excited about the possibilities for Elysian Fields. We're excited about the possibilities for Dwyer Canal between Pontchartrain Park and Gentilly Woods. And this change is just going to allow us a lot more flexibility. Corchery.
All right, I'll go over some next steps with you guys. The 30-day public comment period ends on January 22nd of this year at 5 p.m. It did start on December 23rd of 2020, so that will complete the 30 days. You can submit digital comment cards, and they are available at the website below. Written comment cards can also be submitted directly to myself at corchery.allen@nola.gov. And we also have the NDR substantial amendment available in 3 different languages besides English, and that can be found at the website below. I think I turn this back over to Natalie now.
All right, so that covers the substantial amendment number 1. Hopefully there won't be a need for a number 2. So at this point, we'll open up any questions or comments that anyone might have, and I'll go back to the original screen that shows the House rules in the event that anybody wants to have that text line. Again, you can chat, you can text, or you can, I'll also open up the phone lines once we kind of go through the text and chat to see if anybody has anything that they want to ask verbally.
Well, while we wait, you guys, I just wanted to say that this project is an amazing example of what we can do to live with water. The water will not, go anywhere, and we're not leaving New Orleans. Let's think about that. We're just not going to do it. So this is a perfect way of taking a project and seeing just how well we can utilize the funds, and we can show off our skills. As Mary has stated, we do have some award-winning projects already. So we just really want to do our best and be great stewards with the dollars that we have received. And hopefully HUD will open up a few more grants in the future. And if we do a great job, then maybe we can be recipients again, and we can do this on a much larger scale than just a Gentilly district. That's my goal. I would like to see this moved around different spots in the city of New Orleans, and maybe one day include all of New Orleans.
Yeah, of course, Sheree. So HUD did give out, once they did this competitive grant, they did decide to get into hazard mitigation on a more regular basis. So they did give out CDBG mitigation after 2018 storms. And what's interesting is just this week, there was an announcement that grantees that received money under those 2018 disasters are getting some additional funding. So HUD is continuing to commit to this approach. Now, what we would love to see them do is what FEMA has already done and move away from post-disaster hazard mitigation and move into non-disaster hazard mitigation. Right. We would love to see them move to a point where we don't have to have a disaster in order to receive funding. So I think things are looking up.
I agree. This is a great start.
So we do have a question that came through the chat function. It's from Tara. Tara says, I'm excited to see all these project enhancements. I'm curious if there are any elements of original project scopes that have been eliminated or reduced, or if this is only new additions.
Thank you, Tara, for that question. And I'd like to also talk a little bit about how we have the Office of Transportation that was created by the mayor and her administration, and they have really gotten involved in these projects, and they're extremely helpful on the tie-in with active transportation that we see on Blue and Green. With respect to the question about what does the money transfer mean, these were monies that were identified that through city staff efficiencies, we could push from the city staff side and city supply side into construction. So no project is having money taken away from either its design budget, its outreach budget, or its construction budget. These monies are being moved to provide additional staff support, such as safer energy reliability and monitoring, or to beef up our construction contingency. We know that with COVID and everything else, the construction market is going to continue to fluctuate, but we're super happy to be able to identify these funds and move them into something that we may be able to use to add some value and add some things in construction, but we're prepared in case the market fluctuates in a way that requires us to spend more money. So we're covered either way.
Yeah, so Tara, we don't intend to compromise any scope or eliminate or reduce any project scope from any of the other projects for this. Please let us know if you have any follow-up to that answer, Tara, or if that answers your question. Shane just commented. He said he has no specific project comments, but thinks that this is a very impressive set of projects. Thanks so much for that, Brendan. Jaleese would like to know if there are any DBE opportunities.
Oh,
great
as always, yes. Yes. On every project that goes out from the city of New Orleans, there's always DBE opportunities.
Yeah, and if I could,
Go ahead, Joe.
This is Joe Threat. If I could, for everybody that's on the line, if you are a DBE or you have association with a DBE, just put on your calendar January 19th. That's our next industry day. I'm usually in charge of putting together our industry days every quarter. The city has got some really major changes and announcements to make during that industry day. I've worked with the CFO and the procurement officer and the Office of Supplier Diversity to make some announcements of major changes to the DBE program, and also changing of thresholds to lower some of the contract thresholds to make more opportunities for the DBEs.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to follow. It not only affects Mary's programs here with the NDR, but also HMGP, capital projects, and that big $2 billion JIRR program that we're working for street and roadways, which we're moving into wave 3 and 4. So absolutely, we've got great news coming out that you'll hear about real soon.
If I could springboard off of Joe's comments. So, Joe's talking about how bonding capacity can be a challenge for DBE contractors and small local businesses. One of the things that we've done on this project is we've broken projects down to where it's closer to either the average bonding capacity of a DBE or to capacity that they can attain with support of the Build NOLA program. So for instance, we'll take a $25 million project and break it into several projects that are in the 5 to 10 million threshold. So if you call in on Industry Day, you'll hear us talk about debundling, and that's what that is. It's breaking a project down so that more small, local, or DBE companies can directly prime, and it's within their bonding capacity. Now, in addition to that, I want to make sure that people that are interested in those opportunities are aware of what's called Section 3. So in addition to the city's DBE goals, HUD has a program called Section 3, where 5% of design and 30% of construction is intended to be done by people that are in the low to moderate income range, or by what's called Section 3 businesses. Now, what I love about that program is we have a DBE program, but you don't have to be a DBE that's located within the city of New Orleans. But if you're Section 3, you have to be a Section 3 business within HUD's housing area of aid. That means that Section 3 is really a local hire or a local setting. So I think of Section 3 as DBE on steroids. And if it's not a term that you're familiar with, I encourage you to go to NOLA.gov, Office of Community Development, and they have a labor compliance Section 3 program on the drop-down menu on the left that is all too happy to help.
Yes, Mary, that is a great program that a lot of people are not aware of. And there's different ways to certify. You don't have to be a low income person to actually certify. You can hire 30% of your full-time staff as low income persons and become certified. So please, if you have not read up on that, or you have not reached out to the Office of Community Development to get more information on that, I do encourage you to do so, because there will be multiple opportunities for you if you can do that. We have a lot of HUD dollars, and the Section 3 goals are not the easiest goals to meet because people are just not familiar with it as they are with DBE. So please read up on it.
While we have a minute, do we want to talk about the workforce development training that's going to be coming up? You know, that's also an opportunity to become involved in these programs, even if you don't own your own company, you're not a contractor, but you just like to start working in this area.
Sure. I'll give the overview of what I have going on as the grant administrator. Over on our side, we have issued a notice of funding availability with the help of the Office of Workforce Development to actually get a subrecipient on board to run a program to train individuals to become green infrastructure workers who can work with water, who can get on our projects and become more employed or employed if they have not been employed due to the pandemic or other reasons. And it is out right now. It does have the same runtime pretty much as the substantial amendment. So if you're not familiar with that, I do encourage you to go to NOLA.gov, Office of Community Development, click on NDR, and that NOFA is out right now. Mary, do you want to speak to any of that?
No, you covered it. That's great.
Okay, just wanted to give you that leeway. I know you're very, very in tune with that one as well as getting those people trained in green infrastructure. And with all of our projects, we will have DBE goals, you guys. So if you don't pick up on one specific thing, you may jump on another, or you can jump on multiple. We have a 35% commitment on all of our projects.
Thanks so much for that, ladies. At the end of the day, it's all about equitable outcomes, whether that be the people that we're serving in the community or whether that be the individuals that are working on these projects. We want to just make sure that everything we do, we're doing it with our equity lens properly calibrated so that everybody feels like they are welcome at the table, not only that they have a seat, but that they're coming to the table with what they need in order to be competitive and in order to enjoy the benefits and maximize the benefits that these projects all afford. Because at the end of the day, it makes us a better city as a whole. Obviously, it directly impacts the residents of Gentilly because it's going to be in their neighborhood. But Gentilly belongs to everybody in the city. I know I have a fondness for the neighborhood as well. So anything that's good for Gentilly is good for the city as a whole. I did check the text line. I did not see any text come through. I haven't seen anything else come through the chat line. So at this time, I wanted to open up if anybody has joined by phone and they want to ask a question, now is the opportunity to do that. All right, we're hearing none, unless anyone, Mr. Joe, Mary, Corcherie, Bianca, anybody has anything to close out with, I welcome that at this juncture. Otherwise, everybody can go to their regularly scheduled programming, dinner, or whatever you're typically doing at 6:30 in the evening. So I'll just go ahead and open that up for any closing remarks before we close out.
Natalie, this is Joe. Just in closing, just want the community to be aware that we're in competition with other cities, New York, San Diego, Los Angeles, you name it. The awards were given out to many cities, and the projects are much different. But for New Orleans to be living with water, we've already had FEMA and HUD officials come here to look at our designs and look at our projects that we're doing, and they're very unique. So with that said, we are on target 2022 to finish most of these projects. A lot of them cross-pollinate with the road and construction projects of streets and road with the FEMA grants, and also with the mitigation grants from FEMA for hazard mitigation. So it's a lot of work that's going to be going on in the city. This is just one element of it. But you will start seeing a lot of the work that we're talking about today in national news, because we're going to make the news when these projects are completed, and you should be proud of them. So with that said, I appreciate everybody's participation today. We look forward to working with you. And with that, Coach Sheree, I'll let you close the meeting.
Thanks, Joe. He is correct. We have a lot going on, you guys. I'm so proud of my city right now. I'm happy to be a part of this. Everybody on the call, if you haven't met a lot of us, we are really excited about these projects and we do welcome your input. So if you have not made any comments and you think about anything later, please fill out a public comment card or send an email directly to me. I am available and I will answer your questions. We will have an amendment to this to make sure that we actually cover everybody's questions. This will be available on the website as well. We want to get as much feedback as possible. HUD loves feedbacks. They love to see that we have engaged the community because that's a big component of our grant as well, community engagement. So please, please, please reach out to me, reach out to anybody on the team. If you're familiar with any of us, we will welcome your comments. Mary?
Oh, just a reminder for everyone, if you think about that, or if you have questions after today, you can email the questions, but also I want to remind everyone that we do have on the website translations of the action plan amendment in Spanish, French, and Vietnamese. So if you know anyone from those communities, please share that with them as well.
Thanks for that. Thanks for everyone that participated in the call. Thanks for all of your feedback, all of your input, and we look forward to your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.